You might be wondering, what am I even looking at? Well, let me explain. This is a standard Rubik's Cube. It's a twisty puzzle that has 3 layers on each axis, so we call it a 3x3x3. Of course, not all numbers have to be the same. For example, we can add a layer, and then we have a 3x3x4. These rectangle-looking puzzles are called cuboids, and they come in all different kinds of shapes. 1x2x3, 2x2x5, 4x4x2, you get the idea. And this is a 2x2x222. The 2x2x222 is the new world record for the most number of layers in one direction on a twisty puzzle. In fact, it's the first cuboid to have over 200 layers. The puzzle is 1,332 millimeters tall, or about 4 foot 4. To compare, that's the length of 24 standard Rubik's Cubes, 10 Kirbys, and 6.5 poor life decisions. It weighs 6.9 kilograms, which is about 15 pounds. The puzzle has 2 types of turns. There are 222 short layers that all turn, and most of them turn pretty smoothly. However, there are a handful of specific layers where you can feel a lot of friction when turning them independently, mainly due to the mechanism. More on that later. You can also make these ridiculously long vertical slice turns. They're kind of a pain to do, but look absolutely goofy, and I love it for that. The core of this puzzle is mechanically identical to a 2x2x2. Then, I added these long pieces to extend the puzzle into a 2x2x16. These long pieces slide into both itself and the core, kind of like a key. This forms a rigid skeleton for the puzzle that greatly helps in making it more stable, at the cost of these specific layers being a little stiff. Finally, I added many of these small pieces in between to make the rest of the layers. When you turn the 2x2x222, most of the pieces look like they can just fall out. So, how do the pieces stay in? Well, there are 3 ways. First, the pieces are pretty tightly packed together, so friction holds them in place. Second, I added magnets to every piece so that they can naturally stick together and help with stability. And finally, yeah, even with those 2 things, it can still fall apart if you aren't careful, or if you're unlucky. I first modeled all the pieces that I needed to make this puzzle. I originally designed the core so that the pieces can be glued onto a mini 2x2 cube. I started 3D printing the pieces, and progress went well for a couple of months, until... Yeah, in hindsight, that's not surprising when your 15-pound puzzle is being carried by a $5 cube. After taking a break to contemplate my life choices, I decided to create a custom 2x2 core from scratch, which was a lot stronger. After going through 8 spools of filament, I finally finished printing. I then sanded every piece, and glued all the magnets. Once all the pieces were ready, I assembled the puzzle, and then added the stickers. Not only did I apply the usual colored stickers, I also added these small number stickers, which show how many layers away that piece is from the center. Although it made stickering take twice as long, it was worth it, since it's a surprise tool that can help us later. If I ever work on a big puzzle like this again, I'm definitely gonna 3D print colored tiles instead of using stickers, because this was painfully tedious. So, how much time did this puzzle take to build? Printing all the pieces took about 1,150 hours, or 48 straight days. In addition, it took about 100 hours of manual work to finish the puzzle. I need to go outside. How can I prove that this thing isn't fake? Well, what most puzzle designers do is perform a checkerboard pattern. This pattern requires every layer to be turned, so it's a good way to show that the puzzle is fully functional. However, I wanted to be a bit different, so I decided to scramble the whole thing and solve it. After all, aren't puzzles meant to be solved? This puzzle has over 1.487 Septuaginta possible combinations, or this many. So it must be really, really hard, right? Here's a time lapse of me solving the 2x2x222. Those clear number stickers I talked about earlier were added specifically for this solve. It helped me immensely in keeping track of what pieces I was working on and prevented me from making too many mistakes while solving. Overall, it took about an hour and a half total, not including the multiple breaks in between, because the sheer weight of the puzzle made it exhausting to turn after a couple of minutes. Oh, and I did also checkerboard the cube, just for good measure. One thing I miss about older cuboids is that they sometimes had fun little unique names. Like, this wasn't just called the 3x3x27, it was called the pancake cube. Not only that, if you notice throughout the video, I kept using the term this puzzle, mainly because 2x2x222 is kind of a handful to say. Therefore, I have decided to officially name this puzzle. And from here on out, I expect everyone to use the name I have given when referring to this puzzle. After much consideration, I have decided to christen the 2x2x222 with the name This Is Why I'm Single.